Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Oh, Premanandi. There's less now than when we started. What's happening? They're going home.
It's Indian Standard Time. People will come at
What is Indian Standard Time?
coming late. So thank you so much, Maharaj, for coming.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So, what we'll do while we're waiting, we'll chant a round of japa. We'll punish you all. Punishment for coming early. We'll teach you a lesson for coming on time. What about you little ones? Do you chant japa? You chant japa? You chant japa? Some. Some do, some don't know. You have your beads? You got your weapons? Are you armed? Well, bring them. Bring your car. Bring your weapons. There's no harm in chanting japa. Did you know that? There's no rule against it. Well, I did that this morning. Maybe. That doesn't mean you can't do it in the evening as well. You can chant japa anywhere almost, anytime. You can certainly chant Hare Krishna anywhere. Did you know that Srila Prabhupada has written you can chant Hare Krishna in the toilet? Did you know that? There's nowhere you can't chant. Unless then you can chant inside if someone physically prevents you or circumstances don't allow. Otherwise there's no hard. When Lord Chaitanya says there are no hard and fast rules for chanting the holy name, he means to say that you can chant anywhere, anytime, any place. It doesn't mean there are no guidelines to cultivate Shuddhanam or pure chanting of the holy name. It means everywhere you can chant. Anyone can chant. Even a dog can chant. You may not see many, other than me, you don't see many dogs chanting. Is that it? We're locking the doors?
Yes.
Confidential now. Put a sign, no entry.
No one can escape.
Huh?
No one can escape.
Yeah, no entry. No escape. You're finished. Oh, he's escaped. So let us take care, please. Let me hear you chant. Balashwar, chant one mantra on you.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
How long does it take you to chant 16 rounds?
Just
Not at that rate.
it goes
Huh?
faster when we go.
It gets fast, yeah, it definitely goes faster. At that speed it'll take you about 18 minutes to finish one round practically.
So that's I start with this round and this pace and it goes more.
You start at a slow pace and you speed up. Huh?
It goes serious now.
Let's hear you go at a fast pace.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Rama.
Be careful, you're getting recorded here.
Hare Krishna,
You're being recorded, be careful.
Krishna Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna.
Okay, that's enough. That's enough. That's enough. Enough. I won't comment. You chant japa? Yeah. Let's hear you chant.
Hare Krishna, Krishna
Oh.
Krishna, Hare Hare.
Got a very ladylike voice. Oh, that's someone else. Who was that? Who was that chanting?
I thought you were me.
Oh, no. Okay. Okay, go for it. Let's hear you.
Me?
Yeah. You did. You went straight in there.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Good. Okay. Now down one. Yes.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Okay. Hey, wait.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
Okay, okay. Anybody else? Hey, come on.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Hare.
Okay, okay, one forward. You haven't got these. Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Ram.
Something.
Hare Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Come on, kids, some of you kids, let's hear you. Come on. You come forward. That was a dangerous thing to do. That was dangerous coming forward there. Come on. One mantra. One.
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Good girl. Next one.
Chant.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Oi.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare.
Guy. Come on, boyo.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
Very good. The best. Who's next?
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare.
Nang.
Hank?
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
Good.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
Ooh. Jambalan.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare.
Ooh. Strong one. Who else? Come on.
Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Who have we missed? Linda.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
Good. Do we chant like that all the time? I don't know. Maybe some of us were missing out a word and it sounded like it now and again. It's a common thing when you're chanting japa to miss out a few words, huh? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama. Sometimes that's quite common, isn't it? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Krishna. Sometimes it's common. You have to listen, check yourself sometimes. What does it mean? Well, it means generally we're not being attentive, one. And two, we're missing Radharani. We don't want to miss out Radharani, do we? Do we?
No.
No. One may wonder why this particular combination. This is the various. Of course, there's the Acharyas described that each word, each syllable, in fact, has meaning, combined meaning, where the word Lord appears in this particular form, in this particular order, you could say it's his choice. Whatever order it is, you could say why. Of course, it's Radha Krishna, Radha Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Radha Radha, in that sense. Both Krishna and Radha are there together equally. They're never separated. This is the topmost mantra, practically speaking. There are many what's called Taraka Brahma mantras which can deliver one from birth and death, bring one to liberation from the material ocean, deliver one from ignorance. There are many mantras which may facilitate one's achievement of material goals. There are different mantras in different yugas, different practices to attain liberation or attain Vaikuntha. Mostly they are, we could say, somewhat not necessarily self-centered, but somewhat they're not completely unmotivated. When we say completely without motivation, we mean without any material motivation, without any selfish motivation. For instance, the desire for liberation isn't really for the pleasure of Krishna. It's for one's own relief. The desire for attaining heavenly plane is certainly for one's own pleasure. The desire to attain to Vaikuntha can be seen as a pure motivated desire. It's not a materially motivated or a desire separate from that of the Lord. But still, that is not, you could say, the mood of our acharyas. It's not the mood of Lord Chaitanya. Most people worship God in reverence. They may chant prayers, they may chant mantras. The Hare Krishna mantra can fulfill all desires. The Lord reciprocates according to our surrender. If one desires all these other objectives, the Lord may reciprocate. But pure devotional service is without those other desires. Anyabhilasita-shunya. Jnana-kamaja-navitam. It's without any desire even for liberation. Without desire even to attain. As you may know, there are 5 kinds of liberation. It's not just sayugyo, merging into the Brahman. But one may attain personal relationship, form similar to the Lord, opulences similar to the Lord, same planet as the Lord, or entering into the Lord's personal association and so on. They may be there, but a devotee, at least following the line of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, doesn't desire even any of these forms of liberation. What to speak of material opulences or simply liberation from the material world. A devotee's aspirations are much deeper, you could say, much more enriched in spontaneous love. Where at the moment we have the chance to follow that path. And practically speaking, the essential aspect of the path given to us to achieve our goals, So Taraka Brahma deliver us, but is also Paraka Brahma. Not just deliver, but to be bestowed upon us the highest goal of existence. Lord Chaitanya didn't come to give liberation. He didn't come to give Aishwarya Bhav, which means reverential devotion. Many souls have this spontaneous attraction towards reverential devotion. Because we're worshipping reverence now, that doesn't mean our constitutional nature is like that. The reverential form of worship is a preliminary necessity on the path of the Taraka Brahma aspect, or the deliverance aspect, to deliver us from this material conditioning. It's necessary. In the preliminary stage, just like with our chanting, we're practicing. We're trying to be attentive. We're trying to pronounce the words at least. Even that is a struggle. Sometimes, most of you made a sincere endeavor there, I'm sure you all did, to try to chant fairly nicely and clearly. How attentive we are, that you know, Krishna knows, of how much our chanting is imbued with devotion is known by the Lord. It can be seen, of course, in other factors involved in our lives, but in reality the Lord knows how sincere we are. In the beginning it may be somewhat mechanical. And mechanical chanting may be of various kinds. Mechanical chanting could be like a tape recorder, just kind of without any conscious awareness of what we're doing. Prabhupada describes mechanical chanting as being offensive chanting also. Chanting with the wrong understanding, the wrong concept, or an offensive concept. It could also mean inattentive chanting, which is of many kinds. For one who's on the spontaneous platform, there's no question of, let's say, having to push, having to, control. It's spontaneous. They're naturally chanting with devotion. They're natural. Not something you have to be reminded of, not something you have to be regulated. It comes automatically. So in the practicing stage, we try to be regulated every day, chanting regulated amount of japa on our beads or otherwise, but chanting regularly reading, regulation in worship, regulation in our eating, our sleeping, various other activities. Trying to regulate. You don't stop, you regulate. We're not spontaneous, but we have a desire, faith, to persevere, to follow the practice under the guidance of an advanced Vaishnava, with a faith that if we follow the process with all sincerity, we may progress in Krishna consciousness. So let us now try in a sincere way, a way of taking shelter of the holy name as our only hope, our only shelter. The holy name has descended. It's not like some manufactured mantra of some kind. It's coming from the transcendental plane to give us the opportunity to associate. Radha and Krishna have appeared in this form, a very accessible form which everyone can access as a Mahamantra. Golakera Prema Dana Harinama Sankirtanam. They've appeared in this very wonderful form of Mahamantra to give us their association. So let us try to associate with them. They're here. We're here, but whether we are connecting with their being here is another thing. Try to connect Sometimes we hear devotees say chant from the heart. It means to be conscious awareness of the presence of Krishna as non-different. He's appeared in this Namarupa, Kali Kalara Namarupa, Krishna avatar. The form of Krishna in this age of Kali is Namarup, the name, form of a name. He does appear in personified form, you could say, but from the point of view of the general state of this age, specifically this time in this age, he's appeared in this form of a name, Namarup. And it's just the same. Krishna has endowed all of his transcendental potencies in his form of the name. He's fully present there. And we may not quite get that, but he's fully present. We just, little realization, I suppose you could say. A little faith, naturally. And based on that, we practice gradually chanting the holy name. At least at our stage, at least we try to be attentive, just like a child at school doesn't know. But if they attentively hear, gradually they'll understand, they will learn, and then gradually they'll grasp the subject. It, to a large degree, depends on attentively hearing the subject. If more we hear, it's also a form of surrender. In the Bhagavatam, Sutta Goswami describes how this works, that you have to hear with rapt attention. If you hear with rapt attention, you will see Krishna on the pages of the Bhagavatam. How is that? Because if you hear him, he'll hear us. And how he hears us, and how he reciprocates with that, is that he'll reveal himself. It's a form of surrender. We're surrendering to the Mahamantra. And then the Mahamantra will reciprocate. So let us now chant. First we'll chant Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasudeva Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Fill your tank before you start the journey. Otherwise you might run out of fuel halfway. So take a very deep breath, because you're supposed to finish 16 rounds in one breath. Is that correct? Is that right? Is that correct?
One breath.
I'd have to be a big breath. Maybe Jambavan can do that. Powerful. Devotee of the Lord. Here comes, I think the harmonium is manifesting. I don't play harmonium. This will be Vrinda, if she's still with us. I don't know where she is. She's evaporated somewhere. Leave it here for now. Maybe she'll manifest at some point of time. So please take your beads. We'll chant one round now. If you don't have beads, you can just chant along. If you know how to chant on your fingers, you can do that. But if you follow us, we'll try to chant at the same pace. Srila Prabhupada, in the beginning of ISKCON at least, he was you could say very personal, in the sense that the devotees were few. In America, few young boys and girls. And Srila Prabhupada would sit in the midst of the devotees. And sometimes he would just chant with them. Prabhupada would take, that type of chant, sometimes you hear the japa tape. I think it's about 13 minutes long or something like that for one round. Something like that. So normally we chant a little faster, because if you chant at 13-minute rounds, or like Balashwar was probably 15, it would take you about 4 hours almost 4 hours to finish your 16 rounds. You probably don't have 4 hours in a day. Probably. If you're working,
Yes, Mother.
you're working. And most of you are probably working. Is that right?
Yes.
Mostly Indian people who are in the West are here because of work, isn't it?
Pretend to work.
Pardon? Pretend? Good. That's good. Yeah. But in principle, you're supposed to be working. That's why mostly you come to the Western world. Not many have come with the same motive that Prabhupada came. Is it? Not many. You may have been born here. That's how things are, your karma. But let's try to chant together. Probably used to chant together, at least one round. And then whatever happens after that, your Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Ram Ram Rams. Hare Hare Ram 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 Ram, Hare 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 Ram 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 Ram. Hey, Krishna 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 Ram 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 Ram. Hare 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 Ram 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 Rams. Hare 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 Ram 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 Ram. Hare 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 Ram 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 Ram. Whatever you chant. It does sound like that. When you chanted then just now, of course, you were trying to chant as properly as possible. But sometimes we are very inattentive and all kinds of things come out of the mouth. Sometimes we just fall plain asleep and do other things at the same time. We all have these habits or conditionings, weaknesses. Are we ready? 1, 2, 3. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare. Finished? Rama Hare. Hare Bol. Has anyone finished a round? Anyone finished a round? How many of you finished? Two. You were not chanting at the same pace, were you? Ah. Cheating. Cheating. Anyone finished a round?
2 lunches left.
You finished a round? You finished. Quite most of us have just finished a round, one before. It's quite common that we either stay on the same bead twice, or we jump a bead, 2 beads for one mantra. It's quite common. It's always good to chant a little extra at the end. Of course, Lord knows everything. He knows what's going on. And we may miss a bead sometimes. Maybe you've only got 107 beads rather on your string. You may never have counted it. Quite often sometimes there's 110 beads. If you've got beads, make sure there's 108. And try to chant the whole mantra on each bead. So this is one of the recommended things to do. Today being the first day of the month of Purushottam. It's a very auspicious month, as most of you are aware probably. The extra month, which appears every few years, we discussed this morning a little bit in class. How this extra month was known originally as Malamas. Nobody liked this month. It was most unfortunate, inauspicious month. People treated it like stool. You don't touch it. Mala is sometimes stool. Malamas, the stool month. So the poor month was devastated. Long story cut short. Eventually she surrendered to the Lord. The Lord Krishna eventually said, I will accept you. As you surrendered to me, I will endow you with all my potencies, all my opulences. You will be non-different than me. In fact, I will accept you as my very wife. And you will be known as the month of Purushottam, the most auspicious of all months. Anyone who observes you or respects you during this month is guaranteed to be freed of birth and death and go back to Godhead. He gave all kinds of benedictions and boons for those who worship or perform devotional service during this month and show respect to this month of Purushottam. So chanting japa is one of the recommended items. Of course, devotees, if you're practicing devotees, are already doing that. Rising early in the morning before the sun rises. Of course, it rises quite early in this country at this time of the year. If you're in the winter, you don't need to get up very early. If you're in the North Pole, you don't need to get up at all. It doesn't rise for some months in the North Pole, but then you don't sleep at all in the summer. So anyway, we use your common sense. We generally pace it that the sun rises about 6 o'clock on average worldwide. And that means Brahma Muhurta starts around 4:30ish. So rising before Brahma Muhurta, recommended, that's all. I mean, you may not be able to do it, but this is recommended. If we're able, and we want to make spiritual progress, rising early in the morning is very beneficial. And chanting japa, or kirtan, worshipping, studying, and so on, in those early hours of the morning is very beneficial, especially in this month of Purushottam. Studying Bhagavatam carefully is also recommended, especially the Leelas of Krishna Leela, and especially it's recommended we read the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Purushottam Yoga. The Yoga of the Supreme is recommended, specifically recommended in the Padma Purana. To read this chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord's instructions to Arjuna. So what is our time? frame. You'll have to get a bigger house. What's the time frame?
So, I mean, it was told to be at 6:30 to 8:30, but
Is it?
whatever.
Whatever.
More
Yeah.
than that.
Well, I don't know. We have the devotees. The devotees from the temple. Well, they have to get up early in the morning. I don't know about the devotees in the houses, but in the temple they do. Well, we'll see how it goes. I don't know if you've got a copy of the Bhagavad Gita.
Yes.
Do you have copies with you?
More copies?
Probably, unless you have excellent eyesight and can see like this, because I'm going to read from the 15th chapter. And the idea is at least one round of reading the Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah. Let me check.
You may probably have it on your mobile, if you have internet connection or something. So we'll read the 10th chapter. It's not very, 15th chapter rather. It's not very long. Probably you do know, that the reason Draupadi had 5 husbands, there's a positive reason, of course, they're all great devotees, eternal associates of the Lord, but there's a reason, normally that's an unbecoming thing in Vedic culture for a lady to have 5 husbands. It's unheard of. And she initially, in her previous life, was totally devastated when Lord Shiva granted her the boon of having 5 husbands. And he said that the reason for this is because you disrespected Purushottam Mass. She was offensive towards this month when Durvasa Muni recommended her to follow the practices recommended in this particular month. She considered this month most inauspicious, so she didn't take him seriously. And she actually blasphemed this month. So she had to lose her opulences, took birth again by the mercy of Lord Shiva. She regained her opulences in one sense, but she had to accept the position of having 5 husbands. She had to accept the position of being, again, completely disgraced in so many ways in the assembly of the Kauravas and being banished to the forest for 13 years or whatever, like this. So she had to undergo these various tribulations as a result of disrespecting Purushottam Mass. And then the Lord advised the Pandavas and Draupadi, you observe this and you will regain your kingdom. So they did. They hadn't been observing Purushottam Mass. And then they followed the Lord's instructions. And shortly after that, they were out of exile, and then they, of course, regained their kingdom. So we'll read the 15th chapter. Have you found it on your mobiles?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, if kids want to go out and play, they can play, and adults can come forward little.
As long as there's some little somebody is there to supervise to make sure there's no difficulty for them, because some of them are very small.
Yeah.
At least 1 or 2 adults should be keeping an eye on the children if they're going outside. Shri Bhagavan all together. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Urdhva Mula Madakshakam Ashvatam Praharavyayam Chandangsi Yasya Parnani Yastam Veda Savedavit. We do the Sanskrit and we go through the English, okay? Is that right? Adas Chodvang Prashvitas Tasya Sakka Guna Pravida Vishaya Pravalaha Adas Chamulanyanu Karmanubandini Manushaloke Narupam Asyaha Tato Palabhyate Nanto Nachadir Nacha Sampatishta Ashvatam Menam Suvaruda Mulam Asanga Shastrena Dvidena Chitva Tatakpatam Tat Parimagitavyam Yasmin Gata Na Nivatanti Bhuyaha tameva chajam purishang prapadye yatak praviti prasvita parani nirmana moha jita sangadosha Adhyatma nitya vinivrita kamaha Vanvar vimukta sukha dukkha sanyar Gachancha mudha padam avyavyam tat Na tad basayate suryo Na shashanko na pavakaha Yad gatvana nivartante Tad dhamma paramang mama Mame vangsa jivaloke Jiva Bhuta Sanatanaha Manaksastani Indriyani Prakriti-stani Karshati Shariram Yadavapnoti Yachapyutkramatishvaraha Grihit Vaitani Sangyati Vayorgandhani Vashayat Shrotram Chakshu Sparshanam Cha Rasanam Granameva Cha Adishtaya manaschayam Vishayanupasevate Utkramantam stitang vapi Punjanam vagunanvitam Vimodana pupasyanti Pasyanti jnana chakshushaha Yatanto yoginas chainam Pasyantyatmanyavastitam Yatanto pyakvitatmano Nainam pashyanta cheshtataha Yadaditya gatam tejo Jagat vasayate kilam Yad chandramasi tatadno Tad tejo vidhi mamakam Gama visha chabutani Dadayam yaham ojasa Pushnami chochadi sarva Somo bhutva rasatmakaha Aham Vaishvanaro Bhutva Praninam Deham Ashritaha Pranapada Samayukta Pachamyanam Chaturvidam Sarvascha Chaham Vidisani Vishto Mataksmiti Jnanam Apoanam Cha Vedaischa Sarvairaham Eva Vedyo Vedanta Krit Vedavid Eva Chaham Dvavimo Purusho Loke Sharakshakshara eva cha Shara sarvani bhutani Kutasto kshara uchate Utamak purishastvanya Paramatmet yudaritaha Yolokatrayam avisha Vibhatya vyaya ishvaraha Yasmaksharam atitoham Aksharada pitotamaha Atosmi loke vede cha pratita purushottamaha yo mamevam asangmudho janati purushottamam sasarvavit bhajati mam sarvabhavena bharata iti guyatamam shastram idamukta mayanaga etad buddha buddhimam syat Kritakrityascha Bharata. Happens to be the shortest chapter in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15. And many devotees learn it off by heart. Some of you may know it off by heart. And we'll read the English. Every chapter has very significant verses in there. And this chapter contains one verse which is actually the verse quoted more than any other by Srila Prabhupada. Text number 15 of this chapter is a verse quoted more than any other by Srila Prabhupada in all of the scriptures. So we'll read the English. We can read it together. It's a little more difficult in English because it's not in rhyme. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "It is said that there is an imperishable banyan tree that has its root upwards and its branches down, and whose leaves are the Vedic hymns. One who knows this tree is a knower of the Vedas." Chapter 2, text 2. The branches of this tree extend downward and upward, nourished by the three modes of material nature. The twigs are the objects of the senses. The tree also has roots going down, and these are bound to the fruitive actions of human society. The real form of this tree cannot be perceived in this world, No one can understand where it ends, where it begins, or where its foundation is. But with determination, must cut down this strongly rooted tree with the weapon of detachment. Thereafter, one must seek that place from which, having gone, one never returns, and there surrender to that Supreme Personality of Godhead from whom everything began and from whom everything is extended since time immemorial. Those who are free from false prestige, illusion, and false association, who understand the eternal, who are done with material lust, who are freed from distress, and who unbewildered know how to surrender unto the Supreme Person, attain to that eternal kingdom. That supreme abode of mine is not illumined by the sun or moon, nor by fire or electricity. Those who reach it never return to this material world. The living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. Due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the six senses, which include the mind. The living entity in this material world carries his different conceptions of life from one body to another, as the air carries aromas. Thus he takes one kind of body and again quits it to take another. The living entity, thus taking another gross body, attains a certain type of ear, eye, tongue, nose, and sense of touch, which are grouped around the mind. He thus enjoys a particular set of sense objects. The foolish cannot understand how a living entity can quit his body, nor can they understand what sort of body he enjoys under the spell of the modes of nature. But one whose eyes are trained in knowledge can see all this. The endeavoring transcendentalists who are situated in self-realization can see all this clearly, but those whose minds are not developed and are not situated in self-realization cannot see what is taking place, though they may try. The splendor of the sun, which dissipates the darkness of this whole world, comes from me, and the splendor of the moon and the splendor of fire are also from me. I enter into each planet, and by my energy they stay in orbit. I become the moon, and thereby supply the juice of life for all vegetables. I am the fire of digestion in the bodies of all living entities, and I join with the air of life, outgoing and incoming, to digest the four kinds of foodstuffs. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta, and I am the knower of the Vedas. There are two classes of beings, the fallible and the infallible. In the material world, every living entity is fallible. In the spiritual world, every living entity is called infallible. Besides these two, there is the greatest living personality, the Supreme Soul, the imperishable Lord Himself, has entered the three worlds and is maintaining them. Because I am transcendental, beyond both the fallible and the infallible, and because I am the greatest, and celebrated both in this world and in the Vedas as that Supreme Person. Whoever knows me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, without doubting, is knower of everything. He therefore engages himself in full devotional service to me, the son of Bharat. This is the most confidential part of the Vedic scriptures, O sinless one, and is disclosed now by me. Whoever understands this will become wise, and his endeavors will know perfection. Well, it's a little hard to say it in unison in English, but I hope you picked something up there. It's nice to say it even if we can't clearly hear what we're saying. Because it purifies. The words of Krishna are purifying, they're ambrosia. It's the words of the Lord, or words spoken by the Lord or about the Lord, which are the panacea to cure us of this disease. The first 3 verses herein, 3 or 4 verses, describe the nature of this material world. Or they describe it, and you could say in an allegorical way, or in a kind of a descriptive way, comparing this world to a banyan tree. very complicated. You can't see the beginning or the end. Huh? We don't have much experience in this country of banyan trees. Most of you are from Indian origin, and there are many banyan trees in India, as you know more than I do. Some of them are very large, some of them are small, but some of them are so large you can't see where they begin or end. The branches go down into the ground and the roots, you can't tell what's what. It's very difficult when you're inside there, you can't see where it begins, where it ends, how it starts, etc., etc. It's very, very difficult. So for an embodied living entity or a conditioned living entity in this world, we can't see beyond it. We're in the dark. It's like being in a box. You can't see outside the box. Your only understanding is that within the realm of the box. So we're within this conditioned world, and our knowledge being very limited. To understand how or what is beyond this is only possible, you could say, by the entry or the information given to us by that which is beyond, or someone who has come from beyond this conditioned world. So this is the process here which Krishna is giving, how we can get free. When they cut down, the cutting down is very nicely done, because why we're entangled in this material world is because of our attachments. It's not because of somebody else. It's because we're attached. We have attachments to being the enjoyer, attachments to the objects of the senses. So this, let's say, has to be cut. Sometimes it's said to be like a rope, a guna. The knots of attachment in this world, these gruntas, karma grunta. We're bound up with our karmas by our attachments and so on. So that to cut that is very difficult. To cut down that banyan tree is extremely difficult. But Krishna gives us the clue here, isn't it? In text number 4, what does he say? In text number 4, one must cut down this strongly rooted tree with determination and detachment. Determination means not terminating, not stopping. Huh? It takes time. It takes time to cut a thick tree down. Of course, now we have electric machinery, but previously you had to chop it down with an axe. Huh? It's a big tree, it takes time. It takes determination to cut it down. But this tree of the material entanglement requires another factor too. Not that we just are determined, but we have to have this proper mood of detachment. What is detachment? What is detachment? What is it? What does it mean? Detachment.
You're not attached to the result, Maharaj, of something.
That is one understanding, exactly. We perform our duty, Krishna says this on and off throughout the Gita, without being attached to the result. You have a right to perform your duty, but you're not entitled to enjoy the fruits of the action. And ashita karma palam karyam karma kurotisha, and so on. And here, we'll just read what Prabhupada says. Where should we start? Then by understanding, understanding Krishna's position, that is. So it's important to understand Krishna's position. Then by understanding, one becomes gradually detached from this false reflection of reality. So it's not just detached or freedom from the desire to enjoy the fruits of the result, but it's becoming detached from the very reflection itself. We have an attraction to this reflection. Attraction to family, attraction to the body, attraction to the objects of the senses, attraction to many things. So becoming free to that attraction, to the reflection. And by knowledge, one can cut off the connection and actually become situated in the real tree. So what's happening here? The material world is, here it said, it's like a banyan tree with its roots down, roots up and branches down. It's a reflection of the spiritual world. Everything that we see in this world has its opposite presence in the spiritual world. It's just reflected upside down in the material world. Just like a tree, the example given and given in the purport here is like a tree on the riverbank, which when you look on the riverbank sometimes it looks almost like the real tree. It's so, it's so clear. But it's opposite, it's upside down. Perverted. The other aspect of the material world is it's perverted. It's not just upside down, but by the influence of the three modes of nature, it is perverted in various ways. So to cut that down, or to become detached from that, right now we may be somewhat attracted to it. The word of Sangha is very important in this connection, because the attachment to sense enjoyment and lording over the material nature is very strong. Therefore one must learn detachment. And how do we learn detachment?
By practicing yoga.
Pardon?
By practicing yoga.
That's certainly one of the processes which is recommended. It depends on the type of yoga, of course. Real yoga, yes. Modern idea of yoga, maybe not. But real yoga, yes. Here Prabhupada says another thing. One learns detachment by discussion of spiritual science based on authoritative scriptures, and one must hear from persons who are actually in knowledge. This is the process recommended here, to become genuinely detached from this world.
Attachment to Krishna may be attached to the world.
Well, that's what's coming up now, isn't it? That's what the next thing will be. But it begins by hearing in the association of devotees. You don't, generally speaking, jump to that. You have, without a proper understanding and without detachment from this material world. There may be some sentiment there, but it's not genuine. One must hear from persons who are actually in knowledge. As a result of such discussion in the association of devotees, one comes to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then the first thing one must do is surrender to Him. The description of that place, whence having once gone, one never returns to this false reflected tree, is given here. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is the original root from whom everything has emanated. To gain favor of that Personality of Godhead, one has only to surrender. And this is a result of performing devotional service by hearing, chanting, etc. He is the cause of the extension of the material world. He's caused this material world too, but why and how? It's because of the living entity's desire to enjoy separately from Him. So the Lord has created this reflected world for that purpose, otherwise it has no purpose of existence. This has already been explained by the Lord Himself. Aham sarva vasya prabhava. I am the origin of everything. Therefore, to get out of the entanglement of this strong banyan tree of material life, one must surrender to Krishna. Earlier in the Bhagavad Gita, there are many verses you could say, which you could quote in this regard, like Daivihe Shugunamai Mama Maya Darachaya. This material energy is very difficult to overcome. It's Krishna's energy. He says this divine energy of mine, not just Maya. We sometimes look at Maya like almost with disgust or something. No, that's wrong. The material energy is Krishna's divine energy. It's an expansion of the internal potency. In fact, an expansion of Srimati Radharani, you could say in one sense, as Durga Devi or Maya Devi. So the devotee sees it like that as Krishna's energy, but surrenders to Krishna that we not become attracted to or under the influence of this material energy. So therefore, to get out of this strong tree, one must surrender to Krishna. Only those who surrender unto me can cross beyond it, Krishna says. As soon as one surrenders unto Krishna, one becomes detached automatically from this material extension. So as we become, there's a famous verse in the second chapter which doesn't describe Krishna as such, but it describes this principle. Vishaya vinivartante nirahavasya deniya vasavarsam sopyasya, like that. That one may restrict oneself from sense gratification, but the taste of material sense enjoyment remains. So it's not just that type of detachment either, where you just keep yourself kind of out of sight, out of mind, so to speak. But the potential for being attracted still remains. It has to be replaced by a higher principle. So Krishna says, but by experiencing a higher taste, one becomes fixed in consciousness. So to become fixed in with higher taste, we have a book called The Higher Taste. It's mostly geared towards eating, but still the principle is there that hearing Krishna consciousness is the remedy. Devotional service is the remedy for our material entanglement. Is the medicinal method. The Oshadi Vivosadi Chotamando Ramat is the medicine to free us from this bhava road, this ocean of birth and death. Is to Kutama Shloka Gananavada, to hear about Krishna, to hear topics about Krishna. Even the gopis of Preda, Tavakatam mitam tapta jivanam, Kavibiritam kalmashapaham, Shravana Mangalam, Srimadatam. That this is the only, for those suffering in this material world, under the influence of this material energy, the only relief is to hear topics spoken by or about Krishna. This is the actual medicinal process recommended here. And one will actually, if we hear from the right source, and if we hear in the right way, same thing when we're chanting japa, one will lose the attraction for this material world and develop an attraction towards Krishna. And the more we develop the attraction to be with Krishna, the less we'll be interested to be with the material energy. For a devotee, you may say, well, I've got my duties, I've got my family, this is not really practical. Then one has to understand from another angle. When we say detachment from the material world, it also means to not see this material world as separate from Krishna, but to see it as his energy. To see it as his energy, including the living entity. In fact, in the verse 2 verses down, Krishna explains how the living entities in this material world, text number 7, are his eternal fragmental parts and parcels. We're all part of the whole, or of the wholeness of the Supreme Absolute Truth. Every part has its part to play. We're not the whole, we're a minute part of the Supreme. You could say in fullness. It doesn't make us the Supreme. We're a part of Scotland now, you could say, but that doesn't make us Scotland. But we see ourselves as being in Scotland. Some of you are Scottish citizens, or of course it's British citizens at the moment. But it doesn't make you Britain or England or even the controller. You're just one part of the whole. So the living entity is a part of the Supreme Lord's opulences, his expansions, and we struggle when we don't understand that. When we don't understand how everything's connected to Krishna, then we have a problem on our hands. And this is what's happening today. People don't see that everything connected to Krishna. Therefore they fight and they disagree over just about everything, because they see it in relationship to themselves and everyone sees it differently. Seeing things in relationship with Krishna brings harmony and unity. But we often forget that. We see things in relationship to ourselves. Even ourselves, we don't see ourselves necessarily in relationship with Krishna. Maybe we see Krishna in relationship to me as an order supplier. That's not devotional service. That's piety, or it's a bit beginning of religiosity maybe, but it's not devotional service. Devotional service means we see everything in relationship with Krishna and how everything should be used for the pleasure of Krishna. It's a little different. Religiosity, they normally say, is for those who really want to enjoy in the material world, more or less, up to the point of heaven. Spirituality is for those who want to get out of this material concept of life entirely, by seeing everything in relationship with Krishna. That's the process of, because Krishna removes this covering, he removes this banyan tree, he removes the confusion from our hearts, makes everything very clear as the sun lights up everything in the daytime. He also explained the previous verse is a good one because you won't have any electric bills to pay. So there's no need of electricity in the spiritual world. There's no need of fire and all these things. In the space, planets are self-luminous. Everything is self-luminous, self-contained, etc. So having once gone there, one never returns to this material world. The living entities, and there's an interesting part of this chapter, how the living entity travels from one body to the next. Usually described how the air picks up aromas. When the air passes over, nowadays not so much because the roses don't smell much nowadays. This example is almost outdated. I remember when we were kids, I used to live in England, and we would sometimes, weekends, we would go to the park on the other side of the town, with parents when I was young, not when we were older, but when we were younger. We would go to the park on Sunday evening for a walk, and the park was very beautiful, I must say, well kept. And there was a rose garden, and you could smell it from probably at least 200 meters away. It was so fragrant. But now, even from 2 millimeters away, you can't smell a rose. Right? They're like nothing. They just look colorful, but there's no fragrance. Sometimes. But most of the time, there's no fragrance. You can't smell anything. There's still a few flowers, gardenia, a few other flowers which have nice fragrance, but not many. Most of them are no smell. And very quickly this has happened. I don't know why. But here it describes how the living entity in the material carries his different conceptions of life. We all develop conceptions of life according to our association and what we hear and so on and so forth. We develop various conceptions, and that goes with us when we leave this body. Our consciousness, or the mind, the subtle body, carries those conceptions to our next lifetime. In fact, more or less determines our next lifetime, you could say, coupled with our karma. And is likened here to the air when it passes over a flower bed, a beautiful rose garden or something. It picks up the fragrances and carries that forward. Because he takes on one kind of body after another. And we have a different set of senses in each body. We can see that every species has certain types of senses, and although they're not the soul, they're given to the living entity through which the living entity may interact with the world around him. Lower species is very little consciousness. It's just about basically incapable of adjusting or seeing things differently. Very much in darkness. Every living entity, they're grouped around the mind, and it's very hard to understand how all this is going on. Very hard to understand how the banyan tree is going on, how it's very hard to see how karma is very complicated. In one sense it's easy to describe, but it's complicated to work out. The intricacies of karma. Every action has a reaction. Every little detail combines together and results in a future effect. It's quite complex, and the future effect is the cause of a future effect also. The future effect becomes the cause of a future effect. It's very, very complicated. And that, again, some people try to spend their energy trying to analyze the modes of nature. Understanding of the modes is required. Krishna explains that in the 14th chapter, but we can't fully understand. We can get a basic understanding. What to speak of the laws of karma. But a basic understanding should be there. But more important is the knowledge of the means bring to an end the cycle of karma. Karma bandhana. Tindanti kovidastasya kona kurkataratim. How to cut that bondage to this material. Yad anujasani yapta karma gruntinda bandhanam. How we're bound up in karma grunta. Chindanti. That knot can be cut by remembering the personality of Godhead. Therefore, who will not pay attention to hearing his messages? We have to hear about the Supreme. We have to hear the Bhagavad Gita. We have to hear the holy name. This, not that we cut it down, but by hearing, it is dissolved, it's evaporated, it's removed. The Lord frees us from this jungle of material existence. We have to train our eyes in knowledge, which means to see everything in relation with Krishna. Unless one is purified by process of self-realization, it's not possible to see this. And then Krishna explains how everything comes from him. This comes up, this is a recurring topic throughout the Gita, how everything comes from him, how everything rests upon him, how he is present in everything, etc. Krishna conscious. Within this world, this is an important stage of growth, is how to see, or at least to remember Krishna's presence in everything. And to see how the potency, even the beauty that appears before us is nothing but a reflection of Krishna's beauty. We may become attracted to the reflection of the beauty of this world in its various forms, but that is simply a reflection of Krishna's beauty. So if we can see that in the 10th chapter, Krishna explains this very nicely. How all beautiful, wonderful things in this world spring from but a spark of my splendor. Just a spark. So we can imagine how beautiful Krishna is, or how beautiful the spiritual realm is. Let's see, then the famous verse, text 15. And how many of you know this verse? Text 15. How many know it? Anybody? You know this verse? Say it.
The first word is
good start. You have the book. You have the book. Don't cheat. You should try to learn. You're all coming from very pious, relatively pious. Very pious, I don't know, but very relatively for sure. Pious life, fortunate birth in this world, and it's good to learn these verses.
Sarvasachaham.
Pardon?
Sarvashchaham hridaysanivishto mata smriti jnanapavramcha Veda sarver ahame vedo vedantavid vedadkrit vavjaham.
Great. Do you know the meaning in English?
Yes, ma'am. I'm seated in everyone's heart, and I'm the compiler of the Vedas. I'm the knower of the Vedas.
That's a bit of it, isn't it?
From me, the remembrance and forgetfulness comes.
Yeah. For me, knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. A good excuse when you forget things. You can say, well, that's Krishna. Forgetfulness comes from him. It's not me. I remember, but he calls me to forget.
That's how I forgot the first word today.
Huh?
That's how I forgot the first word today.
Yeah, that's how it came. It was Krishna, it wasn't me. Well, in one sense, yes, it is, but he's reciprocating with us also. So realization, knowledge, remembrance, everything comes from Krishna, ultimately. Everything rests. Aham sarvasya prabhavo. Prabhupada quoted that verse earlier on the purport. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matak smriti jnano ponam. No. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matak sarvam pravartate iti matva bhantimam. Like that. Famous verse in the 10th chapter also. Everything material and spiritual comes from me. Everything. So he's the source of everything. And when we see that and remember that, it helps us a little bit to become a little detached from trying to enjoy the objects of the senses. And putting Krishna in the center. And the purpose, the second part, there's two there's two aspects to this verse. The second part describes how, the purpose of the Vedas. First of all, the Vedas come from him, and and he's a knower of the Vedas, and the purpose of the Vedas is to know him. That's the purpose. So if one knows, and that's explained in a few verses onwards too, whoever knows me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead without doubting is the knower of everything. You don't need to. Many times people ask us, not so much now, maybe they do, but I don't have enough experience perhaps, but in the past, many times what people will say, well, have you read Lobsang Rampa? You've probably never heard of it, have you? Anyone heard of Lobsang Rampa? Lobsang Rampa. That's not our, what's his name? Ramprasad, no. There was a famous Tibetan Book of the Dead, the I Ching and all these things, Lobsang Rampa. Famous. I guess he was some Tibetan Buddhist or something. He was author of these books. People say, have you read it? You should read it. You should read it. Are you okay? There's some dangerous attack coming on you. Somebody attacking you? It's not your husband again, is it? Not your husband again, is it? Some bug. Was it a bug? A dangerous bug? Oh, it's still there. What is it, an ant? Oh, is there some water for her? She needs some water. Young lady, go to Mummy. Maybe she needs some water. She's okay. Maybe she got a cold or something. There is water here if you need it. Mata, if you need water, there's water here. Plenty of it. It's coming fast, and the water is rapidly coming out here. There's a sudden a downpour of water. Like the river Jamuna is flooding right now, isn't it? Vrindavan is flooded. Did you know that?
Yeah.
The banks of the river Jamuna are flooded all over. Some of the town is actually underwater, a little bit underwater. Big flood this year. So there's no need, because what's the purpose of Lobsang Rampa? What's the purpose of any scripture come to that? What's the point of it? What's the purpose of, we don't want to belittle anyone. It's not belittling. It may be taken wrongly, but it's not. What's the purpose of the Quran or the Bible or the Torah? What's the purpose of all these texts? Is it just to know them? Is it just to identify with them? Is it just to become a mundane moralist? What's the purpose of it?
How to love God.
That's the goal. To love the Lord thy God with all thy heart and all thy soul, isn't it? Isn't that the bottom line of the Bible, the Ten Commandments or something? Meant to love God. Well, if you know God, love God, etc., what's the need of everything else? And if you don't, what's the use of everything else? It doesn't bring that or awaken that. If you don't need to perform austerities, there's no need. You've already reached the objective of all these endeavors. So one who generally knows Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead without doubting is the knower of everything. Knower of everything is fine. It's still not the fullness. Then he engages himself in full devotional service. So the engagement in full mamchayovya vicharena in the previous chapter, bhakti yogena sevateya sugunan samatichaitan. What does Krishna say? Look it up. Mamchayovya vicharena. I think it's the previous chapter, isn't it? 14th chapter, I think so. I may be wrong. A long time we don't read these things. But I think it's the 14th chapter. You can look it up in the index. Mamchayo. It's a well-read book, this one. I can see that. Is this your Bhagavad Gita? Whose is this Gita? Is this yours?
My wife.
Your wife, she's reading good, huh? She's a big reader. Is she?
She's reading Bhakti Shastri, so.
Oh, oh boy, I better be careful. She's a Bhakti Shastri. Woo! Dangerous. Around scholars. Have you passed your Bhakti Shastri? Where is she? Here it is. Text 26 of the 14th chapter. One who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature and comes to the level of Brahman. But that's not enough. You come to the spiritual platform, you transcend this world. But then this verse at the end of the 15th chapter describes how then you engage in full devotional service unto me. You know the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And later on we'll find out in the 18th chapter the effects of engaging in pure devotional service. That Krishna reveals himself to one engaged in pure devotional service. These nice verses here, 16 to 18, describing the different classes of living entities. Fallible, infallible. Everyone in this material world is potentially fallible. Any moment we can fall into Maya. We're already in Maya. Any moment someone, you fall into different degrees of Maya, you could say. We're in a fallible condition, a dangerous condition. Spiritual world, the living entities are infallible. There's no influence of the modes of nature or time. Time in this world takes everything away, but there is no time influence. It's present there in the form of pastime. They have pastimes. But it's not there in the form of taking things away, beginning, middle, and end. Everything is eternal. And then describing how there is another living entity besides, over and above the Shara and Akshara, the fallible and infallible. There is another living entity, or another being, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And beyond both these other living entities. And that's the Supreme Person. So try to take advantage. This is the most confidential part of knowledge because it indicates the path to perfection. The path to ultimate perfection is given. It looks like Sharanga's hungry. He's just disappeared into the garden. I don't know if he's eating. Is he eating? Not sure. He knows we can see him quite clearly there. I may not be aware of this. Huh? There's a monkey in the garden, I think. He's had enough. He knows what the real business of life is. The problem was his wife cooked today, and between Manand and myself, we ate everything. He had nothing to eat so he's probably very hungry. We'll let him off this time. So this understanding of this science, one can attain perfection. Understanding something doesn't just mean a theory, it means putting into practice also. Because that's what it said we're supposed to do. We're supposed to act on this knowledge, utilize it in our lives. Okay, well, that's enough yakking for now. Anything else? You've now memorized the 15th chapter. You chanted one perfect round of japa, which you'll now do continually throughout your life. During the month of Purushottam, you're going to get up every morning before 4:30 and chant 16 rounds before going to work, and read the 15th chapter every day, and read at least one chapter of Bhagavatam every day. And what else are you going to do? Increase your japa 32 rounds a day. What else are you going to do this month? Definitely don't eat any food which is not offered to Krishna. What else are you going to do? You seem to agree with all of this. Do you think you can chant 64 rounds a day? Do you think any of you can chant 64 rounds?
Every day?
Every day? Probably not. Pretty difficult, huh? When you're working, it's not easy. It's difficult 16 sometimes. It's not just work we have in our lives. There's so many distractions are there. Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, he asked his disciples to chant 64 rounds, as you probably know. But that wasn't actually for everyone. And is sometimes misunderstood. Especially those who were, Brahmin initiated. Especially those who were, serious followers. It wasn't 64 only, it was as many as possible. But generally the fully initiated devotees were expected to chant 64 rounds. But he said the renunciates, the preachers, did not need to chant 64 rounds. That, he said, was for the grihastas. 64 rounds was for the grihastas. So if you stay a renunciate, then you don't have to worry. You get married, you have to chant 64 rounds, okay? And one of his disciples said, Guru Maharaj, it's not possible, I'm so busy. I'm married, I'm working. I don't have the time. He said to him, I know how much time you have. I know how much time you spend gossiping. I know how much time you spend on Facebook. You may not, it is a different lifestyle. Life was a little simpler before, but I'm sure that much of our day is not utilized as Krishna consciously as it could. I'm sure. One thing after another. Still, the pressures of life wear on us, and it's very difficult to focus, to concentrate, and so on. But as much as possible, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, you utilize every moment you can for hearing and chanting. That's it. Is that okay? You all right? You sure? The next time we come, we want to see you have a bigger house. Okay? We've gone from one to the next. It's like, who was that avatar? Matsya avatar, was it? No. You're getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, bigger pond, bigger. Yeah, Matsya. So eventually you have, a house so big the whole world can come. House for the whole world to live in, okay?
Only Krishna can do.
Huh?
Only Krishna can do.
Krishna can do. He's already done, isn't he? He's provided that house for the whole world to live in. And more than, much more.
And Prabhupada.
Well, Prabhupada did in a kind of different way.
Yeah.
It means consciously. In other words, everyone can enter Krishna consciousness. You don't have to live in a building. You can live wherever you are and become Krishna conscious wherever you are. That's the point. You can be anywhere, in a prison, in a hospital, anywhere you can be Krishna conscious. It's not restricted by the place, the state of consciousness. Okay, well, let's finish with some kirtan. We'll sing a song. This is in the song book. It's a simple one, and it's in the songs of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. I don't know, Vrinda's not here, is she? Is Vrinda here?
She should be here.
You know?
Which song, right?
Huh?
Which song?
Srinam. Gai Gora Madhusrave. Very simple song. Doesn't take long. It's a song which is basically Gai Gora Bhaktivinoda Thakur. You can hopefully find it in your mobiles. It's in the songbook, of course. It's the third song of Bhaktivinoda Thakur in the songbook. Describing how simple life is. No matter who you are, married or single, everyone should chant the holy name of Krishna. Fill your lives with the holy name. We're struggling in this world of Maya, and we're not taking advantage of this by chanting the holy names. And life may end at any moment, so we shouldn't waste our time. We should try to engage our senses in the service of the Lord And if we do this, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, even once, if we do this fully, then it's just one taste, one's life will become perfect. Just by tasting this sweet name, association with Krishna. Gai Goro Madhusvare Gai Goro Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Grihe Tako Vanitako Sadahari Boli Tako Grihe Tako Vanitako Sadahari Sukhe dukhe pulanako Vadande Hari Nam Korore. Maybe Nako is a different beat. Korore. The first line is a chorus. Nam Gai Goro Madhusvare Nam Gai Goro Madhusvare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Maya Jala Bada Hoye Acho Miche Kajalo Ye Maya Jala Bada Hoye Acho Miche Kajalo Ye Ekana Chaitanya Peye Radha Madhava Nam Bolare Ekana Chaitanya Peye Radha Madhava Nam Bolare Nam Gai Goro Madhusvare Nam Gai Goro Madhusvare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jivan no hoile shesh na Jile Rishikesh Jivana no Hoile She Navaji Jile Rishikesh Bhakati Vinodapade Ekpanam Rase Mature Bhakati Vinodapade Ekpanam Rase Mature Gai Guru Marusware Mangai Guru Madhusware Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, oh Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.